211 items, that's what's in your garage. You counted them once, just to see. A treadmill from January. A box from October you never opened. 3 pairs of running shoes that have never touched a road. You're 24. You work 58 hours a week. At the end of every month, nothing left. 16 years from now, a third of your life will run on money that works while you sleep. First, you have to figure out why you own 211 things you don't remember buying. Your paycheck hits on Fridays, $2,040 after taxes. By Monday, a third of it is gone. Not rent, not anything urgent, just gone to things you couldn't name if someone asked right now. 12 subscriptions. Most signed up for a free trial you forgot to cancel. A streaming service you haven't opened in 4 months. A meal kit you tried twice. A gym membership for a gym you visited twice this year, both times in January. You don't think this is a money problem. You think this is just what your 20s cost. Everyone you know lives roughly the same way. Car payment, $380 a month. You stopped looking at the total a while ago. You eat out 4 nights a week. Not because the food's special, but because cooking is one more decision and you're out of those by 6 p.m. Your bank app shows a number on Friday. By the 15th, it's half that. By the 28th, almost nothing. Same as last month, same as the month before. Net worth at 24, negative $4,000, mostly student loan interest plus a credit card balance that never quite hits zero. You've never actually looked at that number directly. You'd have to add things up, and you never add things up. Nobody tells you this part. You're not overdrawn, not behind on anything. By every normal measure, you're fine. Job, bills paid on time, credit's fine. But fine isn't the same as building something. You go into the garage sometimes just to grab a tool. Have to step around things to get to it. A folded treadmill, untouched since the box came open. 3 boxes from a move 2 years ago, still sealed. You don't know what's in 2 of them anymore. Stopped wondering. No overdraft fee, no declined card at a gas station. Nobody at the bank is looking at you differently. You're not at the bottom of anything. You're just standing in the middle of something that takes a little more than it gives back, every month. Quietly. The same way you don't notice your own breathing. It's just Friday, then Monday, then the 15th, then the 28th. A loop you've never once stopped to look at. And you'll keep living this way. Easy. Nothing breaks. Nothing runs out completely. That's the actual problem. Nothing ever gets bad enough to make you stop and ask why a paycheck this size leaves you with nothing. Every month, like clockwork, you weren't broke, you were just full. You're 25 now. It's a Tuesday. Late. You can't sleep for no real reason. You walk into the garage also for no real reason, and you start counting. Not planning to, just counting. 211. You don't know what to do with that number at first. You just stand there with it for a minute. Then you go back to bed. 3 days later, a bill arrives in the mail. A storage unit. You'd forgotten you were even renting one. A woman named Greta calls from the rental office that same afternoon. Says you're a week late on the payment. You'd forgotten the unit existed. You'd been paying for it anyway, every month, for 2 years, to store things you don't remember owning. You don't tell anyone this. Not because it's dramatic, it isn't. Because it's embarrassing in a small, quiet way that doesn't really have a name. The kind of thing you'd laugh off if a friend brought it up. Yeah, but you're not laughing right now. You drive out to the unit that weekend, open the door, stand there for a long minute before you touch anything. Boxes, a lamp you don't recognize, a coffee table from an apartment you don't live in anymore. None of it means anything to you. None of it is worth what you've paid to keep it sitting in the dark. You didn't have a breakdown, didn't cry in a parking lot. You just had a door and a number, and a feeling you couldn't quite place, somewhere between annoyed and tired and a little bit ashamed. You start selling things that same weekend. Not with a plan. Not because you read an article about minimalism. Just because the discomfort of looking at all of it was worse than the effort of listing it online. The lamp goes for $15, the coffee table for $40. A box of kitchen stuff you don't remember packing, gone for $30 to someone who drives an hour to pick it up and doesn't ask a single question. You close the storage unit 2 weeks later. Greta doesn't ask why you're leaving. People close units all the time. She just processes the paperwork and wishes you a good afternoon. You drive home with an empty trunk and a strange, light feeling in your chest. Something closer to quiet. The storage unit had been costing you $110 a month. 2 years of that comes out to $2,640, paid to keep a lamp you didn't recognize in the dark. You add that number up once, in the car, and don't say it out loud to anyone. But here's the part that matters more than the money. You didn't sell those things because you needed the cash. You sold them because carrying them, physically, mentally, had quietly become more expensive than the things were ever worth. What happens next isn't really about the garage anymore. It's about what you do with that quiet feeling once it's there. Whether you let it fade back into the noise of 58-hour weeks and Friday paychecks, or whether you actually follow it somewhere. You're 25, then 26. The garage keeps thinning out. Not all at once. A shelf here, a box there. Every few weekends, something else goes, sold, donated, or just thrown out because it was never worth keeping in the first place. He noticed something strange. The less there is, the easier it gets to let go of the next thing. That same month, he set up an automatic transfer. $150 into a broad market index fund. Moves out the day your paycheck lands, before you ever see it. You pick the amount almost at random, small enough that you think you won't notice it's gone. You don't notice. That's the strange part. Your savings account, for the first time, doesn't shrink back to nothing by the 15th. It just sits there. Quiet, boring even. You check it more than you'd admit to anyone. Not from worry this time, from something closer to disbelief. Age 25. Net worth crosses zero for the first time in your adult life. Not impressive. Just zero, instead of negative 4,000. Age 26, $11,000 invested, sitting quietly in the index fund, growing whether you watch it or not. A friend named Marisol, not a close friend, someone from the gym you actually go to now, asks how you suddenly have money saved. You tell her the truth. You didn't earn more. You just stopped paying twice for things you already owned and started paying yourself first instead. She doesn't get it right away. Most people don't, the first time you say it out loud. Here's what you start to understand slowly. Every item you own costs more than its price tag says. It costs you the 10 minutes you spend looking for it in a drawer. The Saturday afternoon you lose organizing a closet full of things you don't use. The small, quiet guilt every time you walk past something and think, I should really do something with that. That's a tax. Nobody sends you a bill for it. You just pay it every day, simply by owning the thing. You start to see your old garage differently now. 211 items weren't just clutter. It was 211 small ongoing payments you didn't know you were making. Attention. Time. Space in your head you didn't have to spare. The $150 a month feels like nothing on its own. It's not the number doing the work yet. It's the habit. The fact that it happens without you deciding it, every time. The same way the old subscriptions used to charge you, without you deciding anything either. Same mechanism, pointed in a different direction now. You're 27 now. You want a jacket? $310, more than you've ever spent on one piece of clothing in your life. Old, you would have bought it on the spot. Card out, done, moving on with the day. Instead, you write it down. The jacket, today's date. A note that says, revisit in 30 days. A coworker named Holt laughs at you for this. Same week he buys a new pair of wireless earbuds on a whim, 20% off for the next 4 hours only. The countdown timer made it feel urgent. It wasn't. Nothing about earbuds is ever urgent. 3 weeks later, he's already lost one of them. Somewhere between his car and his desk. He buys a replacement pair the same day. Doesn't think twice. You think about your jacket the whole 30 days. Not constantly, just little flickers. You see it in a shop window once and almost go in. You don't. Day 30 arrives. You pull up the note. The jacket's still there, same price. You think about it one more time clearly, without the rush of wanting it right now. You buy it. You wear that jacket for the next 6 years. Through 2 job changes, 1 move, a winter so cold the seams nearly gave out and held anyway. Holt buys 4 more pairs of earbuds in that same stretch of time. You don't keep score. You just notice the way you notice the weather. Wanting something and getting it stops being the same moment. There's a gap now between the two. And inside that gap, most of what you thought you needed quietly stops mattering before the 30 days are even up. Not all of it. Some things survive the wait, and you buy them anyway, clear-headed, no regret. But most things don't. Your garage by now holds only what you actually use. You didn't sit down one day and decide that. It just became true, one slow decision at a time, one 30-day list at a time, until the things that didn't matter had already disqualified themselves. Age 27, $18,000 invested. Emergency fund covers 6 months of expenses for the first time, a number you check once and don't need to check again for a while. You're not rich, you're just no longer one bad week away from anything. The waiting doesn't feel like a restriction anymore. It feels more like clarity, like finally seeing what you actually want, once the noise of right now has had 30 days to die down. For the past year, you've been running 3 side projects at once. A small online shop that barely breaks even most months. A video channel almost nobody watches. Some freelance writing you squeeze in whenever you have energy left over, which, most weeks, is rarely. You tell yourself this is smart, diversifying, multiple streams of income as the books say. It isn't working, not because you're bad at any of it. Because none of the 3 ever gets enough of you to actually grow. You're spread 3 ways thin, and thin doesn't build anything, it just survives. You finally sit down one night and add up what each one actually made last month. The shop earned $312, the channel earned $47. The writing, the thing you do last after the other 2 whenever you're already tired, earned $1,920. You read those 3 numbers side by side and feel something close to embarrassment. You'd been treating your best income source like a hobby and your worst ones like a strategy. A man named Castellano, who runs a small print shop near your apartment, says something to you almost in passing. He's been printing your shop's packaging for months. He asks how the writing's going. You mention the numbers, almost as a joke. He just says, "Sounds like you already know the answer." You shut the shop down that month. Stop posting videos a few weeks later, quietly. No announcement, you keep the writing. The one thing you were actually good at. The one thing that kept finding its way back into your hands no matter how many other things you tried to balance alongside it. You give it your full attention for the first time. Do not split attention, all of it. The first month with that kind of focus, it earns $2,600. More than the shop and the channel combined ever earned in a full year. It doesn't feel like luck. It feels like something you should have noticed a long time ago. That you'd been working hard in 3 directions instead of working well in one. You start turning down small jobs that don't fit. Every hour spent on something half-hearted is an hour not spent on the one thing that's actually compounding. People around you still talk about side hustles as if collecting them is the goal. 5 income streams, 6, you don't argue with them, you just don't do it anymore. There's a quiet kind of relief in this you didn't expect. Less to track, less to manage, less mental noise at the end of the day, wondering whether you should have spent more time on the channel or the shop or whatever else used to be pulling at you. You're 30 now, then 31. Your hours at the main job drop from 58 a week to 42. Nobody handed you that change. It just happened, slowly, because you stopped needing the overtime to cover impulses you don't really have anymore. You notice the extra hours before you know what to do with them. Free time doesn't feel like freedom right away. It feels strange, unfilled. You sit in your apartment on a Tuesday evening with nothing urgent pulling at you, and it's uncomfortable in a way you didn't expect. You almost go looking for something to fix. Some old habit, surfacing again, looking for a problem to solve, just so the quiet has a reason to end. You're seeing someone around this time. Her name is Nadia. She invites you on a group trip, the kind where 6 people split the total cost evenly, even though 3 of them are bringing a lot less to the table than the other 3. You do the math without meaning to. You say no. It's the first time you've said no to something like this without immediately apologizing for it. Nadia doesn't take it well, not exactly. Nothing dramatic happens. No argument, no scene. Just a small flatness in her voice the next time you talk, like something shifted half a degree and neither of you wants to name it. The distance between you grows after that. Not from a fight. She just wanted a different life than the one you were quietly building. A faster one, a louder one, full of decisions made in the moment instead of 30 days later. Not worse. Just a different shape, moving at a different pace. Nobody breaks up over a group trip. People just drift an inch at a time until one day the inches add up to something neither of you can explain in a single sentence. That same year, your portfolio crossed $42,000. The dividends and growth from it now cover your monthly grocery bill without you touching the principal. Small. Real. Free time isn't automatically a good time. You have to learn what to do with it, the same way you had to learn what to do with money. You just find out, slowly, by sitting in the quiet until it stops being uncomfortable and starts being yours. By the end of that year, the quiet doesn't bother you anymore. You've started reading again. Long walks, no destination, things that don't cost anything and don't ask anything of you either. You're 33 now. You make the last payment on your car loan on a random Wednesday. No ceremony, just a notification on your phone confirming the balance is zero. You don't replace it with another loan. You buy the next car in cash. Older. Plainer. Nothing that turns heads in a parking lot. You hand over the money, sign the title, and drive it home the same afternoon. A bank calls you that same month. They want to offer you a premium credit card. Better rewards, higher limit, a metal card that feels heavier in your hand than the plastic one you've had for years. The kind of card that used to feel like an upgrade, like proof you'd made it somewhere. You say no thanks. You don't need the rope. 2 years earlier, the market had dropped hard. A correction that knocked your portfolio down nearly 19% in 6 weeks. You watched $11,000 disappear from a number you'd been quietly proud of. You kept buying anyway. $150, then more, every month into the same index fund at lower prices than before. It didn't feel brave at the time. It just felt like following a rule you'd already decided on before the fear showed up. By 33, the market has recovered and then some. Your portfolio sits at $180,000. The shares you bought during the drop are worth more now than what you paid for them. The investment income alone now covers your rent, not your whole life, just the rent. There's a man named Eckhart who handles a small sounding side gig for you now. He mentions, almost as an aside, that you're one of maybe 3 clients he has under 40 with zero consumer debt of any kind. He says it like a fact, not a compliment. You take it as both. It's not the feeling people expect when they imagine being debt-free. It's not excitement. It's quieter. It's the absence of a sound you'd stopped noticing. The monthly hum of payments due, one account at a time, going silent. You remember vaguely, checking your bank app and subtracting 3 or 4 numbers in your head before you knew what was actually yours. Car payment, credit card minimum. That personal loan from years back, you barely think about anymore because it's gone too. None of that subtraction happens anymore. The number on the screen is just the number. A friend mentions she's thinking about financing a new couch over 18 months. 0% interest, no big deal. You don't lecture her. The couch wasn't the expensive part. The couch, the car payment, the subscriptions, and the credit card minimum showing up in the same month, every month. What? You're 36 now, then 37. Your portfolio is worth $300,000. You run the math one night, the way you've run it before, except this time the answer is different. Investment income now covers 30% of your living expenses. Not all of it. Not yet. But for the first time, 1/3 of your life runs on money that isn't tied to your hours. One Tuesday morning, payroll is delayed. A processing error, nothing serious. Everybody in the office notices right away. People checking their phones, someone complaining near the coffee machine, a group text about rent due Friday. You notice too. You open your banking app the same way everyone else does. Then you stop, halfway through typing a message about it, and realize it doesn't actually matter if the paycheck lands today or next week. You'd be fine either way. You don't say that out loud. It feels like the wrong thing to say in a room full of people doing math in their heads. You don't quit anything. You don't make an announcement. You just notice that the 42-hour week feels less like a requirement and more like a choice you're still making. For now. Because you want to. A coworker asks what you'd do if you didn't need the job. It's a casual question, the kind people ask over coffee without expecting a real answer. You don't have a fast one. You sit there for a second too long, and she notices and laughs and changes the subject. You keep thinking about it after she's gone. 3 years ago you would have laughed it off immediately. Now you actually have to think. You think back sometimes, to the garage, to the 211 items, to Holt and his earbuds, still buying a new pair every few months, still working 60 hours a week without complaint, because nobody ever showed him there was another way to run the math. You don't feel superior about it. You just feel like someone who got lucky enough to count something at midnight once and follow where the discomfort pointed. You're 38 now, then 40. You start setting aside a fixed amount each year for one long trip, instead of buying furniture you don't actually need. You don't upgrade your couch, you don't need to. You begin moving 8% of your income to a small community fund near where you grew up. Not because you're flush with extra money, because you tested it for a year first, and your life didn't change when it disappeared. So you kept doing it, letting go of a box you haven't opened in 3 years, letting go of money you could be holding onto instead. These come from the same place, even though they don't look related at first. Both are a kind of grip. Loosening one teaches you how to loosen the other. You don't think of yourself as generous. You think of yourself as someone who finally understands that holding everything tightly was never actually safe. It just looked like safety from the inside. By 40, your portfolio sits at $430,000. Investment income covers a third of your living expenses without you touching the principal. You work 30 hours a week most weeks. Nobody at your job calls this part-time. They just call it your schedule because the work still gets done, and it always has. Holt is still around, still working 60 hours a week. He asks you once, almost offhand over coffee, how you managed to slow down the way you did. You don't have a short answer for him. The honest one takes 16 years to explain, and even then, it sounds too simple to be believed. Something about a storage unit, and a jacket you waited 30 days for, and 3 numbers sitting side by side that finally told you the truth, and a coworker who lost an earbud 4 separate times. He laughs at the earbud part. He doesn't fully believe the rest. That's fine. You didn't either. At 25, standing in a garage at midnight, counting things you couldn't explain owning. The garage is almost empty now. A few tools hung on a wall instead of stacked in boxes. A bike you actually ride twice a week, sometimes more. Nothing else. You walk through it sometimes for no reason at all, the way you used to walk through it looking for something you couldn't find. Now there's nothing to look for. You didn't earn more by working harder. You needed less to call it enough. And the difference between what you earned and what you needed had 16 years to grow on its own, quietly, without you watching it every day. You didn't get free by earning your way out of the garage. You got free by finally seeing what the numbers were trying to tell you. Right now, somewhere, a phone buzzes with a sale ending in 4 hours. Someone reaches for their card without thinking. They don't know yet that the thing they're about to buy will sit in a garage for 2 years, unopened, costing them more in quiet attention than it ever cost in dollars. Nobody sends you a bill for that. You just pay it. For years usually, before you notice you're paying anything at all.